because I got to see her presentation. I took so much back, and she was actually using ACC's meeting minutes, and we weren't. So just because you're an ACC doesn't mean you understand all the different modules, or as Andrew said, product pickers that you can actually utilize. So I'm senior VDC tech with GE Johnson Construction Company, established in 1967. We have 475 plus employees, 535 million in revenue last year. Our market sectors that we focus on are healthcare, hospitality, higher education, advanced tech, and yeah, a little bit about me is I actually graduated mechanical engineering, Colorado School of Mines in 2016, and as soon as I graduated, I went to go play Canadian football, because why not? After that, got into corporate America in finance and tech as a business analyst / project manager in cloud engineering. So when you hear ACC, it rings a bell for me. So once I found an accidental way to get into construction because of all the cool technology that was there, I started utilizing it and seeing that I could actually use the cloud background that I had, and ACC was the perfect fit for me. So now I help streamline workflows at GE Johnson, and we're basically optimizing things on the back end to make it safer on the front end for our guys in the field.
Thanks, Emmanuel.
Pretty exciting stuff. You get to basically utilize all the different types of models, whether that be IFC, Revit Published View, DWG, etc. And let's be honest, ACC does get particular sometimes based on the authoring software that exported that specific file type. So if it didn't export it with the correct export settings, you will not be able to use that model as a clashable model, but you will still be able to use it to view all the models together in a federated view. How do we get to that view? So this is the workflow that we created at GE Johnson. When we spoke to our relationship manager at Autodesk, he actually advised us that there's a good, better, best approach. And his best approach was to use Revit Cloud Workshed models for all the models. So you got your design team working in there, you got your trades, you got the general contractor creating that composite model. And what we learned was that if you use that workflow, you have to wait for all those spinning wheels of death or life, however you look at it. The spinning wheels, when you hit publish in Revit, you see that wheel spin. When you go to docs, you see that wheel spin. And when you go to model coordination, you see that wheel spin. So our workflow is basically trying to speed up the amount of time that it takes for us to create that model and get it into the cloud so that we can start utilizing it. NWCs seem to be the most streamlined way because a Revit model is a little bit heavier. A Revit Cloud Workshed model is a lot longer to publish versus an NWC export. So this was initially how our workflow is. Now we really try and focus on NWCs. Civil design teams always give us DWGs that we get confused on how to use them, but we somehow edit them and still get them into our composite. And the cool thing is, once you figure out how to get all that into model coordination, you can now utilize that in Navisworks, which a lot of our trades historically want to use Navisworks because they're comfortable with it, they know how it works, regardless if it hasn't been updated since 2016, they're comfortable in their behaviors with it. So we try and bridge that gap. On this view, you can kind of see how we utilize Revit published views. So the published settings in Revit basically allow you to select all the views that you want to publish with that Revit model. So even though you have one Revit model, you can have multiple views. I love this, other than the loading time for processing all these published views, because instead of me exporting all those NWCs right there, you can actually just hit publish, and you're going to be able to clash all those different views against each other, or just review them for context. This is what it looks like on the browser. So once you actually publish that Revit model, this is what you'll see when you open it up in ACC, docs, model coordination, and whatever else Autodesk creates for us. Okay, so when we're compiling all these models from our trades, design teams, and our composite information, we're always QCing it. So you can kind of see those folders right there. We got design, GJ, and subtrades. Our subtrades, we analyze all their information with all the nice columns that Autodesk gives us. So I really do appreciate this. So you can see the versioning, you can see the file size, and as you can see, a 3 megabyte file is way lighter than that Revit published file that we were just talking about. And then you can see the last day they updated it. So if anybody in here is a trade, you really help out your GC by putting that model on there the day before coordination, so we at least have a chance to actually coordinate it the following day. So what I like about this is when we get updated design models from consultants, they tend to sometimes match the bulletins and the ASIs, and they sometimes don't. So we can always go back and compare the changes that they made to their model ourselves with the versioning tool within ACC, specifically for Revit. I haven't seen them be able to allow you to compare NWCs yet, right? So that's hopefully an update that Autodesk does one day. But right now, we're utilizing it for Revit. And as you can see, once we select those two different versions, you can go any two versions and basically see what was modified, added, and removed. We do self-perform concrete at G. Johnson, so it's very important that we validate the locations of the pier caps, the drilled piers, grade beams, and this design team, for whatever reason, had to keep adjusting the locations of those and actually adjust the grids throughout the project. So we really had to pay attention to this feature. So once we have analyzed everything looks correct in docs, now we transition to the product picker of model coordination. Andrew's laughing over there because I call this the module, but they changed the name to product picker and they change things every day. So, so in here you can also see the names of the files. It's very important that you select your naming structure. It's going to make it very easy to filter. So when I'm hopping on a meeting, I'm literally just typing in L1 or I'm typing in ARC or something quick, and I can select the models that I want to see relative to what I'm trying to show. You can see the folder path where that's coming from, and then you can also see the last updated. Clashes. If you really want to dive deep into utilizing this column, you're going to have to set up your project in a way where it actually breaks it out by area or location, because if not, that's just a bunch of information that's going to overwhelm everybody. 1,907 clashes doesn't give enough context to what you're actually seeing there. Cool. This is really to verify what you can open up in model coordination is the same information that you can see in Navisworks. So this is huge for our trades because that's what they really want to know. I'm not changing what their existing workflows are. I'm allowing them to utilize the cloud and add this to their workflows. So that's what this is to show you. As long as you install that coordination plugin, you're good to go. So once we actually start navigating the model, you can see that we have our composite here. We're able to section it down. If somebody wants to, I know Andrew was mentioning you can look at things by level. We've gotten pretty well at utilizing the, not left click, right click. So if you right click, you can select any plane and it'll section it down, and it just makes it easy for us to navigate in the browser. You can still utilize Navisworks to do the same thing with extra section options, right? And ACC's model browser, model coordination, you can't section it as effectively the way she was mentioning she could in Revizto. So that is one challenge, but if you do the pre-work prior to the meeting to understand what you're trying to display for that meeting, it's not that hard to figure out what planes you're going to section for that meeting. Here's an example of how I would actually navigate the meeting on a call. So we're looking at a mechanical room. If everybody wants to kind of analyze, where our water entry is for this room, I can section that plane, show everybody where we are, those areas of influences. You can see the footings, you can see the context. So if you become more comfortable, and the way I got more comfortable is accepting the fact that I got to be a beta tester for Autodesk to actually utilize the tool effectively. I know a lot of people that have been in the industry longer than me are not interested in being a beta tester, so I feel your pain. But that's also why I try and help others that are trying to get on the platform understand how I was able to make it make sense. On this page, this shows us the visibility graphics that we're able to utilize to actually color the geometry. So as simple as that sounds, it's very difficult to get specific VG graphics to reflect in ACC. So my simple tip for you is if you're going to use Revit published views, the way that you're going to be able to color your geometry is by using filters. If you're going to use NWCs and export from Revit, the way you're going to color your geometry is by coloring their material properties. I know everybody doesn't necessarily know how to get to the material properties. Some of you have to hop into your families that are nested and color the material in there, just so it can reflect in your NWC. We've been able to get our mechanical subtrades to actually figure out how to change all their pre-existing Revit search sets, filters, etc., so that they can now utilize the colors in ACC, just so everybody can differentiate between the different systems. Awesome. Point clouds. So this was the latest and greatest news that got me really pumped up and excited. On the left, that is actually point cloud data, but it is reflected as a point mesh. So we didn't get to that point until probably a month or two ago because of a third-party software called Point Fuse. The green that you can see right there, that is the geometry that we took our time to model from a point cloud because we didn't have that tool previously. Why would we take our time to do that? We're a general contractor. We're trying to get an as-built data into model coordination because it's really important that our project managers, our superintendents can actually see the geometry. And if you take a point cloud into ACC, it does not work in model coordination. You can use it in docs, but that's as far as you're gonna get. So what we've actually done is take it a step further, convert that point cloud into a point mesh. Now we can actually clash all of our data, all of our models against that point mesh, making that point cloud way more valuable when it comes to coordination than I ever thought we could use it before. Cool, so now we're gonna discuss coordination review. Coordination review, I would say, is where ACC really picks up. I haven't seen anybody been able to centralize data and actually create a collaborative environment that everybody from your operations side, your design side, your trade side can all speak to each other on the same platform and actually receive the different information based upon what they're looking for. This is basically showing us how our trades are updating the statuses on those issues. Every time we create our clash test, we create an associated issue, and they can go in here and they can fix them, and now we can actually go use our filter. So if I'm on a meeting, I can filter it out by priority, by fire protection, by trade name, and it really saves us a lot of time from looking at hundreds of issues to looking at things that we really just want to discuss today. On this page is an example of how we're communicating in this issue. So we created an issue about clashing. The ductwork was hitting some structural bracing. He resolved the majority of those clashes. I was able to go back in here and say, hey, you still have, I think, some structural bracing that's still hitting, and then able to actually take a picture, attach it right back to that issue. And what I love about this is there's an activity log that documents every single thing that happened with this issue, even the typos that you made, responding to the wrong person. So it's great for keeping us accountable as a GC and keeping our trades accountable, knowing that we're all on the same page. This is probably my favorite feature as somebody that has to go through all these detailed, tedious clashes, is that you can mass edit the clashes. So this feature, I don't know when it came out, but as soon as it did, it's been in my back pocket for every single day, basically, because you can filter all the issues, based off of what right now I think it's title. So if I named all my classes fire protection times blah, 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 I can search FP, then I can select all of those, I can edit all of those, and then I can assign them to one fire protection sub. I can put watchers on there. The list goes on and on, but this just expands the opportunities for what you can do with these issues. And then clashing. So just like Andrew was saying, the clashes are automated. So instead of you having to actually set up your clash test like you would in Navisworks Manage, now ACC, once we did all that back-end work that we discussed previously, is set up correctly. Now you're really just letting ACC handle all your clashing. So those spinning wheels, as long as you give yourself time to let that all happen, you can come into here, select the primary model, see all the clashes associated, and once you select one of those beams, it'll associate everything that's touching that one beam as a clash group. So you just saved yourself time from having to circle or click or check, whatever was your preference before. This is an example of when you create that clash, you want to be very specific with the push pin that's associated with the model that the clash needs to be resolved by. So I don't think I'm going to tell my structural design team to move that beam, so I want to make sure that push pin goes on that duct fitting so that the duct guy knows, hey, you might want to drop this elevation. And yeah, this just shows you an example of all the different parameters that you can fill in. I do believe you can hide some of these. The biggest ones that we're using is definitely the assignee, the statusing, and now we're using a lot more due dates to hold trades accountable of when that clash needs to get resolved. And a really cool thing that we can still do, folks that have used Navisworks are pretty used to overlaying DWGs in Navisworks to get context of a 2D drawing. What we're doing here, we can't actually overlay that 2D DWG and model coordination because Autodesk doesn't let you anymore. No clue why. So we have to take it a step further, convert that 2D DWG to a 2D NWC, or I should say 3D, because ACC's model coordination is reading the 3D NWC, and now we're able to overlay that 2D context to that 3D geometry so that we can see, how that civil drawing or site plan was laid out in respect to the geometry. That means that that strong relationship that DPR had with Autodesk is now transitioned over to us, and that only encouraged me to get more into ACC because prior to us being a part of DPR, we were making sure we could find coordination workflows that would support using ACC, and now with DPR having unlimited licenses, we're not worried about bringing our trades in because everybody can hop in here. So that's just the personal company thing that really has allowed us to streamline all these workflows. There's the BIM 360 app. I don't know if Autodesk is ever going to get rid of it or not, but I'm just going to show you that they are progressing and getting better. So ACC app is the one that you want to download now. It has fixed a lot of bugs. We have seen results from our project engineers actually doing all their punch list items with this app. So instead of bringing, you nodded, so I'm assuming you've used it.
I haven't used it, but
you've
that,
heard.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they validated it from that side because I'm not in the field creating issues, and they're telling us, they're like, oh yeah, we already know how to do that. We've just took out our phones, took pictures, assigned them to the 2D drawings, and that's how we're doing all of our punch lists. So the fact that they're able to take this actually helps our BDC department because previous to this, it was a lot of phone calls back and forth of, can you find us this, can you do this, can you do this? And now with all these different applications, they're actually able to be more proactive in their approach versus waiting on us to get them information. And you can now see the model viewer within ACC. I did check, because when I got pumped up at that Revizto field day, I was like, man, I wish ACC had a way to navigate the model and see the key plan. Revizto can still do that a little bit smoother. They also have a gaming engine, but ACC, this app specifically, does allow you to see the key plan in 3D when you're navigating the model on the phone. So pretty cool for our superintendents and project engineers. A big thing that I really value is when all that data is in a centralized platform, you can now create reports based on that. And Drill's been giving great presentations on how to utilize all that data, whether that be in Power BI, which I hope I can do at some point. But right now, what we're getting out of it is being able to create these automated reports when we're doing our sign-offs. So it's really cool that you can filter them. You can filter them by status, type, and any other parameter that ACC is allowing you to kind of utilize. This is an example of what that would look like. So it takes that default picture whenever I create those clash tests that you guys saw previously. That issue was left open, so the trade is signing off that he's gonna get this resolved in the field, and he's gonna be responsible if it doesn't get done. Training. So when I became the beta tester for all of this fun stuff, there weren't all these cool videos that showed you how to do it, which means I was the one creating all the cool non-videos on how to do it. That just means hours of calls with trades on showing them how to do it, to the point that now we've been able to streamline our process where we can answer the questions a lot more immediately versus taking people through a bunch of information that they don't need. So we've broken out all the Autodesk videos on our own SharePoint site to kind of speak to the different modules based on who our audience is for that specific training. We've also put together a lesson plan. So this is a lesson plan we were able to put together. We're actually using this to train our PEs on what is the model, because that's a question surprisingly in the construction industry. Where is the model? Everybody's not familiar with the cloud, so that concept is something that we're letting them know. It's really not that hard. Previously it was Navisworks, you need that installed on your computer, you need to talk to the IT department, then you need to figure out how to open it, and then you need to know how to fly it. Now it's open up your browser, log in, this is where you look at it, this is how you open it, this is how you open up the views. And then we can even take it a step further because the training is that much more streamlined. This is how you take a dimension in the model. So we're receiving a lot of good value from this, and we've created specific trainings based on the specific departments that we're speaking to. And then the cost. So cost associated with ACC is, I think it's a deal. $59 a month as of the day I took this picture. I don't know if you guys have changed that since then, but I think that's great for the fact that you're getting this automated clashing. For me, working on the laptop, just the reality of it is, if I'm opening up Revit, Navisworks, and I put it on my laptop heats up. When I open up the browser, I'm able to reveal these clashes based on Autodesk server at the time when I open up the browser. So as long as it's not overloaded, I can actually get a lot of work done in the internet browser, and so can all of our project teams. So I think that's a really good value add for them taking all that data and allowing us to make a lot of insightful decisions based upon it. So that's right back to you.
Great, thanks, Emmanuel.